2001, A Space Odyssey, the sci-fi epic, the journey that transcends across humanity, reality. Video games? Oh, you can't be serious. Yes, now you can take the journey to uncover the meaning of life in existence, discover the mystery of the monoliths, through the journey of 2001 and its sequel, 2010. We're diving into the depths of obscurity for this one, so prepare for departure and keep one eye on that AI that's always watching, because it's a video game odyssey for 2001, A Space Odyssey. An odyssey for an odyssey. Yeah. Okay. "2001: A Space Odyssey" was released in cinemas in 1968, based on the short stories by Arthur C. Clarke. Directed by Stanley Kubrick, the film explored themes of humanity, alien life, existence, the universe, artificial intelligence, the lot. Thanks to Kubrick's meticulous eye for detail, the film is widely regarded as one of the most influential science fiction films of all time. The genre of science fiction itself made itself known through the 50s and 60s through the black and white, low-budget B-movies that were made to fill out drive-ins and more casual settings, and while shows such as Star Trek were beginning to turn the tide in the late 60s, their budgetary constraints still hampered their visions of the future. 2001: A Space Odyssey changed all that. It offered an elaborate vision of how space travel might actually look, what our eyes and minds might turn to when we step amongst the stars to contemplate the infinite, and why we're here, how artificial intelligence might become a part of our lives, for better or worse. In short, 2001: A Space Odyssey allowed science fiction to be taken seriously again. Not without its controversies and its critics, but either way memorable, remarkable, and significant. Being released in 1968, it was a bit too early for any video games to be based upon it, so we have to skip forward a bit for our video games to appear. In 1981, the first game based in the franchise was released, and it is 2001: A Space Odyssey, released only in Japan for the various home computers of the country, including the FM7, Sharp MZ series, PC 6001 and 8000, Hitachi Basic Master Level 3, and Toshiba Pasopia, not to be confused with the 1981 arcade game Space Odyssey by Sega, which has no relation to the franchise. Either way, I'll be playing the 1983 re-release 2001 An Adventure Story Special Edition, playable on the Sharp X1 computer, as it's the only one I could find a copy of and get running properly, but I'll come back to look at the differences between the versions later. The game is an unlicensed release, meaning that it is not officially a part of the franchise, but was produced and sold commercially, just without the license holder's permission. Moving past the title screen, we get an absolute wall of text outlining the premise of the game and instructions on how to play. You'll see this format on a fair amount of Japanese games of the time. Essentially, the game is split into two parts vaguely reminiscent of two different scenes of the film. Vaguely. In the first level, we play as David Bowman himself, and our job is to shut down Hal, as in the film, by disconnecting his circuit boards. Unlike the film though, Hal has a laser to try and stop you from pulling the plug on him. You'll move around the circuit boards and have to pull out all of the red ones, but if you see one of Hal's panels light up on the top or left, you'll need to move out of its vision, as the laser will be shot moments later. This isn't too difficult to deal with, but it is a little luck-based, as the panel which will light up is random. It does alternate between one from the top and one on the left, so you can somewhat plan your movement. You also have 4 lives to complete this task, with each of your lives being a different person in the loading bay area where you start. Are they different people? Are they all David Bowman? I don't know, it's not really explained. There's also a time limit to accomplish this task, but I never ran into it. Once you disconnect Hal, you'll automatically walk back to the pod and power it up, proceeding to the second level of the game, Warp Road. Here, you'll be piloting the pod to get to the monolith, but you'll have to dodge all of these asteroids in order to get there. What makes this level much more difficult is that it's nearly impossible to determine when an asteroid is going to collide with you or not, so you'll find yourself getting hit when it looks like an asteroid should just sail past you. At this point of the game though, it's not too difficult. After a bit of manoeuvring, you'll reach the Stargate, which is just a blue square. Not exactly the technical marvel of the film, but you get the idea. This is 1983, remember. Also, regardless of how many lives you had left after the previous level, here you only have one chance to complete the level. If you die, it's game over. After you manage to arrive at the Stargate and undertake the mysterious voyage beyond it, you arrive in a strange new reality beyond the realms of human experience. Level 2. Specifically, Room 2, as it says at the top there. The game starts in the Hell Room again, but a little more difficult as you need to remove more circuit boards this time. Likewise, the warp road is longer and has more asteroids for you to avoid. This loop repeats until level 10, after which the game does actually end. There's no extra lives throughout the game though, so you'll have to have a pretty flawless run to get there. If you do though, you'll get the credits, starring David Bowman as player, HAL 9000 as your Sharp X1 computer, and the actual developer. This whole game was made by one person, Koshiro Yoshimura, who would go on to have a long career in the industry. The original version of this game is the same in the first scene with just much more basic graphics as you attempt to deactivate HAL again. You get a little cutscene of sorts with the pod departing Discovery after you complete the first scene and move to the second, which is almost completely different. You're still trying to move the pod to the Stargate, but you have to do it in a 2D view, and before your energy at the bottom of the screen runs out. This is a lot easier than the asteroid field of the Sharp X1 version, but there's barely any gameplay, so you win some, you lose some, I guess. This is a very basic game, but more or less on par with the games of the time on home computers. It does at least represent scenes from the film in some way, the graphics are clear but simple, and it's a well put together effort from one person back in 1981. The first scene avoiding HAL's lasers certainly keeps you alert and has a bit of a thrill to it, but the second scene feels a bit unfair, as it's difficult to work out where the asteroids are in relation to you. Pretty basic stuff, but there is a functioning game in here. This is not the end of it though, because this game actually got a sequel. 2001 A Space Odyssey Part 2, subtitle Overside of the Stargate, was released in 1982 for all the same Japanese home computers, and made once again by Koshiro Yoshimaru. All of these versions feature the same game with no real differences that I'm aware of. I'll be playing the Toshiba Pasopia version since that's the only one I could actually find. This is a very obscure game. Also, the cover art for this game has some cool artwork too. In fact, a lot of the Japanese official artwork for the film is pretty awesome. It's worth checking out. After the rather colourful title screen, we're once again treated to a page of instructions and backstory in Japanese. It basically says that you, Dave Bowman, managed to stop HAL 9000's rebellion, launch your spacepod in search of the monolith, and when it appeared, were taken in your spacepod through a mysterious Stargate, basically recapping the film and the first game. Beyond the Stargate lies a world never before seen by humanity, where there is an alien preventing you from making contact with the monolith. And therein provides the context for this game. You'll be playing as our pal Dave, walking around this area trying to touch the monolith that is randomly moving around the area. As the instructions stated, an alien chases Dave through the level and kills him on contact. To complete each level, you need to make contact with the monolith a set number of times, as shown on the right. You have to be aware of the holes, in blue, that you will fall into and prevent movement for a while, and red, things that you can climb over. Dave also has a laser this time around, which you can use to fire at the alien and stun it for a short time. It's a pretty simple game, and perhaps a bit disappointing if you thought that the Stargate would lead to a brand new reality, a metaphysical transcendence of the soul, but instead you're just being chased by an alien for eternity. Once you touch the monolith the required number of times, you'll go to the next level, which is the same thing, just with more obstacles and a trickier layout. This continues up till level 10, where upon completing the level, the game crashes, marking the end of the game as far as I can tell. I could find no evidence of an actual ending. This is a very simple game with not much to it. The difficulty comes from the alien moving constantly towards you, leaving you no chance to think about your next move, and the random movement of the monolith that can make it difficult to catch, particularly if it leaves the screen and goes over to the opposite side. This is made worse by the controls. The game only recognises an input about once a second, and the movement is slow. Also, the laser which stuns the alien is very inconsistent and won't fire when you press the fire button and a direction at the same time as it should. Likewise, you are supposed to be able to climb over the red objects by pressing the button and direction at the same time, but it very rarely works. And all the while, the alien continues to move towards you, so you don't have time to try and get it to work. All in all, you were probably expecting a bit more from the world beyond the Stargate than being chased by an alien for all eternity. Sorry, Dave. That's all for the games based on 2001 A Space Odyssey, and we next move on to those based on its sequel, 2010, The Year We Make Contact, released in 1984, which tells the story of a crew heading to Jupiter to try and investigate what happened to the voyage of the Discovery and its crew. Based on Arthur C. Clarke's sequel novels, it adopts a more typical Hollywood film structure, and referencing the Cold War, it balances providing answers to the original film while also maintaining a sense of mystery that made the original so captivating. It's a decent sci-fi flick that nevertheless will be, somewhat unfairly, compared to its much more elaborate predecessor, but it is a completely different kind of production, and comparisons don't hold up that well. More importantly, it also got 2 officially licensed games based on the film, offering 2 different genres for the film to come to life in. The first we'll look at is 2010, The Action Game, released for the ColecoVision home console. In this game, your objective is to repair Discovery before it falls onto the surface of Jupiter's moon Io. From your screen, you can see the various subsystems of Discovery, and each time you select one, you'll go to a circuit board and have to run a current through it, hitting each component once. Be mindful of the spark running through the system, as contacting it while you're in a particular part will overload it and force you to replace it. This is simple enough to do, but there is a time limit, as you'll see Discovery's altitude on the main screen until it falls to Io's surface. As you repair the 4 different subsystems of life support, reactors, engines and communications, their status will update on the HUD. You can also repair HAL's circuits which operate in a different way. You'll have to direct a charge through to the end of a circuit by changing how the nodes move it. A bit more tricky and time consuming, but manageable. With HAL Online, you can direct him to repair circuits on his own, but he's quite slow at it, so don't rely on him too much. If you're getting a bit too close to Io, and you've repaired enough engines and reactors, you can fire the thrusters for an emergency lift to give you a bit more time, but don't fire them too long or you'll burn out some subsystems and have to repair them. After you repair enough systems, you can fire up the engines and escape Io's orbit to return to Earth, thus completing the game. This doesn't really follow the plot of the film it's based on, as there's no mention of the monoliths or anything else, and Discovery isn't really rescued there either. Either way, that's the game. You can choose from 4 difficulties. The easiest gives you HAL Online straight away, and others have you activate him, but yeah, there's not much to this game. You're just completing circuits, repairing circuits. I guess it counts as a graphic action game in the sense that there's graphics and some action in sending a current down some wires, but other than that, very little actual gameplay to talk about. Alongside the release of the graphic action game, we have our next game, 2010, The Text Adventure Game. Guess what type of game this is? This one was released for the Coleco Adam, which was Coleco's home computer, and of course to take advantage of that keyboard, we get a text adventure. This one essentially follows the same plot as the graphic action game, interestingly, perhaps making it a retelling of the same story in a different genre. You have travelled to Jupiter aboard the Soviet spacecraft Leonov, as in the film, and are tasked by the US Space Agency to repair Discovery and bring it to Earth before its orbit decays around Io and crashes into the planet. You start off in your pod outside of Discovery, as you need to find your way inside. You'll have to be careful you don't move away from Discovery and float off into space while you're moving around too. You'll have to interact with this game using the Coleco Adam's 6 special buttons, which give you contextual actions. To get into the ship, you'll need to exit the pod, move to the airlock, open the airlock, enter the airlock, close the airlock, and head on in. With only your torch, you head on into the ship and... now what? Yeah, this game doesn't really give you much of a clue of what to do to actually repair Discovery. The manual gives you nothing to go on either, and you'd expect that you'd be sent with actual repair tools or something. What you'll have to do is explore the entire ship, examine every area, and this will tell you if there's an issue such as a hole in the hull. You can go to the repair locker and pick up a whole host of different tools for different tasks, and again, you'll need to examine each one to determine what they do. Okay, let's get to work. We need to leave the ship via the airlock again and fix the antenna by replacing the circuit board and polishing the connectors, patch a hole in the hull on the fuel cells, and remove meteorites from the exhaust. Again, you won't know what to do until you've examined that particular area. You can also scrape the hull of sulfur dust that has come from Io's surface, but this is not required. Not every repair is necessary to complete the game, and this will be important to know, as we shall see. Heading back in, you'll probably have to deal with the next issue, the stamina system. Every action takes time and makes you hungry, thirsty, tired, and consume air. To counter this, we'll have to find food in the food locker, turn on the power and water supply, repressurize the ship and fix the holes in the hull to make the atmosphere breathable, and sleeping. Another issue is that every action takes time, and you have a strict time limit before the Discovery crashes into Io, so you can't waste too much time. The game clearly is not meant to be done in one playthrough. You need to learn nearly everything about the ship, so you can efficiently do what you need to do. Also, sometimes you can randomly fail to actually sleep, which wastes your time more, and lack of sleep will eventually kill you, so you have to keep trying regardless. With the generator on, you can turn Hal on, who has no memory of what happened when he tried to kill David Bowman and the crew, so he's pleasant enough. We still need to actually fix him though, and this is easily the most tedious part of the game. You have to go and test Hal's 6 subsystems, and identify from the sounds they make which ones are faulty. It's somewhat clear that they make different sounds, but they are randomised on each playthrough. Whichever one's a bust, we have to replace the circuit boards from that particular subsystem. This requires going to the circuit board locker to find all of this lot. You'll need to pick the circuit boards for the particular subsystem that needs fixing, as identified by the letters in their description. But there's more. Some of the circuit boards are broken, and so for every board you need to pick it up, insert it into the circuit board machine you get from the repair locker, check the board, if it's broken, fix it, remove it from the machine, which for some reason drops the board on the floor, then pick it up. Then you can safely insert it into the correct subsystem. This whole process takes forever and is extremely tedious. Also, remember that each action counts towards your time limit and contributes to your fatigue, so you need to know exactly which boards you're looking for so you don't waste time. Remember, the game doesn't tell you any of this, you just need to pick it up. Somehow. Checking the console on the bridge, you can see which subsystems you have repaired. I skipped the removing sulfur from the hull earlier because you don't actually need to fix everything to get back to Earth. It's only really important if you want the best score, and again, that time limit makes you prioritise what you are doing. With the power on, HAL activated and fixed, antenna operational to communicate with Earth, hull patched, exhausts unclogged, and a breathable atmosphere, you can plot a course to Earth, communicate with Earth or the Leonov if you want, and finally tell HAL to activate the engines and take us home, completing the game and giving us a nice little scene of Discovery departing. This text-adventure game is way too complicated, in the sense that there's no real instruction with regard to what tools do what, how to fix things where anything is, and you're just left on your own, woefully unprepared to fix a giant spaceship all on your own. I will give credit to the game insofar that there's no absurd moon logic, everything makes sense in the context, you just need to take the time to examine everything for anything to fix, work out what the tools do, and what subsystems are broken. The whole checking circuit board thing just takes so long though, and the stamina just overcomplicates things. An interesting positive in this game is the sound design. When you're short on air, it simulates heavy breathing. When your infantry is full, you make loud thuds that echo around the empty corridors as you move. It's quite neat. This is one for people who really love text adventures and learning absolutely everything by taking the time to explore, take notes, and make maps. Definitely not for the casual player. While that's it for the 2001 games, there is one cameo that the franchise gets in another game. It's in LEGO Dimensions, the 2015 crossover. As you proceed through the game's story mode, you'll eventually reach a level based in the Portal franchise. Making your way through the test chambers, you'll end up facing GLaDOS, the antagonist of the series. Partway through the boss battle, a portal to another dimension opens, and out emerges HAL 9000 himself. What unfolds is a battle between two killer AIs as the two trade insults and bickering, and GLaDOS getting increasingly annoyed at HAL calling her Dave. Honestly, it's quite funny, and not something you'd ever expect.
For you within my calculations. Now go away.
I'm sorry, Dave. I do not know how to do that, as I do not know how I got here.
Stop calling me Dave.
And that's it. Every game based on the 2001 A Space Odyssey franchise. A collection of obscure and bizarre games in a franchise which doesn't really need them. None of the games are anything substantial and are fairly harmless, but adding enough flavour of the franchise to make it feel, at least in part, involved in the settings of the films. If you're looking for the best game in the franchise, there's not really much to differentiate them. The first game has at least a variety of gameplay, just make sure to play the special edition for the smoother gameplay and graphics. The 2010 graphic action game has a sense of accomplishment in getting Discovery Online and back to Earth, but it is just completing circuits over and over again. The text adventure is for dedicated text adventure fans with an infinite amount of patience and time, as trying to do anything takes far too long. It's also noteworthy how the 2010 games don't really address the main plot point of the film in investigating the signal from Jupiter and the monoliths, just repairing Discovery and bringing it home, kind of missing the point. If you really need to know what lies beyond the Stargate at the end of 2001, then I guess you can play 2001 A Space Odyssey Part 2, although you might just be disappointed that it's just David Bowman being chased by a green alien for eternity. Sorry Dave, HAL did try to stop you. Thanks for checking out this Video Game Odyssey 4 2001 A Space Odyssey. That's too many Odysseys. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. It really helps. You can also check out my Twitch channel where I play through all the games featured in this series on stream, the extra YouTube channel for stream archives, and support on Patreon and Ko-Fi. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you for the next Video Game Odyssey.